Hello, everybody. How you doing, my friends? So, quick little housekeeping before we get started. Our guest, awesome man, John, he offers his ebook for free. You just gotta hit me up, and I will send you your email to him, and you get his book full of fantastic knowledge about e-waste and the privacy risk coming. It's quite a fascinating interview we go into. And the second thing I wanted to get into is I'm noticing not a lot of you are reviewing and subscribing on the different podcast platforms. I get it. You're booked out. Could you just help your boy out and hit the subscribe button? You can always delete the downloads. Just it helps me out on the back end with all the algorithms and all that. Other than that, let's get right into this fantastic interview.
Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
This is great. Well, I'm ready when you are. Seriously, I'm excited. Thank you for having me on. I love this kind of stuff, and I'll try to give you some good content to work with for your audience. And I'm also going to give away a copy of my book to any of your audience members that wants to write to you. So that way you give them something to do and give a nice little giveaway and give them a little extra value added. I think it typically works that way. So
Perfect.
Other than that, I'm ready to rock when you are.
All right, John, just give us an introduction of yourself then.
Hi, I'm John Shegerian, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Electronic Recyclers International, also known as ERI.
Nice. So what do you guys do specifically at ERI?
Yeah, we're the largest electronic waste recycling company in North America. We also are the number one hardware data destruction company in North America and maybe even the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does that work? I have a recycling friend.
Yeah.
And he's like, the three things he says don't get into is plastic, e-waste, and something else. And I was like,
well, yeah, your friend's not wrong in one degree in that this was a big problem when we first learned about this problem about 20 years ago, Josh. It was the dark side of the technological revolution.
Mm-hmm.
None of the great icons that we all have come to know and love who created the technology revolution. Let's just take Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or any of them, even, back to the days of PayPal and the PayPal Mafia and Elon Musk and all those. None of those folks ever thought about what happens to all the electronics when they come to their natural end of life. So the dark side of the technological revolution was this problem that started springing up in about year 2000 called e-waste.
Mm-hmm.
And basically e-waste is anything with a cord that you can think of, whether it's a hairdryer or a cell phone, whether it's a television set or a laptop or a tablet or your wearable or now your EV or your data center. It's all part of the e-waste ecosystem. And here's the crazy facts.
Okay.
E-waste was in 2020, 2021, 2022. Oh, sorry. In 2000, 20 years ago, when we got into business, e-waste was the fastest growing solid waste stream in the world. So if in 2002, if it was the fastest growing solid waste stream in the world, and many responsible solutions like ERI have been created to help fill the gap and handle all this electronic waste in those 20 years, why 20 years later in 2022 is e-waste now not only the fastest growing solid waste stream in the world, but the fastest growing solid waste stream by an order of magnitude of 2 to 4 times the second fastest growing solid waste stream, which happens to be plastic waste. And the problem is electronics have become even more ubiquitous to our lives. Think about everything that's happened in those 20 years. The Internet of Things. You have Ring and Nest and EVs and wearables and the ubiquity of electronics and drones and now virtual reality and the Oculus. And this is not a problem that's only getting bigger. And according to the United Nations, Josh, only 17% of all electronics that are being used on the planet right now are being responsibly recycled. So the problem is bigger, and it's a difficult business to do right. There's more failures than success stories in this industry. So your friend's not wrong, but it's a business worth doing because if you do it right, you can make a really great living and you can actually make the world a better place at the same time.
Yeah. Well, he's an old school recycler. He deals with like aluminum, metal, copper, and all that.
Right. Yeah. That's old school. And that's okay. And those industries are still great. Aluminum and gold and steel, still great industries and still a great need for them as well.
Oh, yeah. And he has connections in Malaysia. So he does do plastic and then he sends it over there.
Got it. Understood.
But yeah, it was just funny when I was reading up on you on my e-waste. I'm like, ooh, his name's Harry. I'm like, Harry does not like that.
Right. And so that's where we are right now.
So what's some of your process? Because you were mentioning data before on the products. I'm assuming like cell phones and stuff like that. What's your process first to get them? And then I guess sort them out and dispose of them.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. Well, e-waste comes to us in many different fashions. The public at large can drop off their electronics at any one of our now soon to be 9 facilities in the United States. We have 8 facilities right now in the United States in Fresno, California, Dallas, Denver, Seattle, Plainfield, Indiana, Baden, North Carolina, New Jersey, and Holliston, Massachusetts. We're soon to be opening up in Goodyear, Arizona, our 9th facility. So the public at large can drop off at our facilities. Also, trucks bring us materials from distribution centers. So I'll give you a little thumbnail drive of our clients. The city of LA has been a client since 2007. The city of New York since 2013. About 600 cities in between those two coasts are also our clients. Then you have the 2 biggest waste companies, Waste Management and Republic Services, are our clients. So we get service. It's an honor to service their business. Then you also have all the big retailers. Best Buy's Take Back program. We helped them launch that back in 2007. The Consumer Take Back program, we still help them manage that across America. So people can still go drop off their old electronics at Best Buy or Staples, and it goes to a responsible recycler like ERI. So there's many, many ways for it to come back to us. And then we have people who sort through these materials. And we also have AI and robotics.
That was going to be my next question if you have that too.
Yeah. And then we also created in 2008 and 2009 the world's largest electronic waste shredding machines. Now, the shredders originally were created for throughput and for cleanliness of the commodities, because the cleaner that once you shred a piece of old electronic, the cleaner you get the old commodity, which is a fancy term in our industry, is the more liberated that commodity is, the more valuable it is. So when you shred old electronics, what you get out of it is shredded steel. And this is an order of volume: shredded steel, shredded plastic, shredded aluminum, copper, gold, silver, lead, palladium. And then you also have, of course, if it's an old CRT monitor, the CRT is about 30 to 35% of the glass of the weight of a piece of electronic as well. Those CRT monitors, though, are going way down in volume. And so we sell all of the commodities that come out of old electronics. So getting them back cleaner through our shredding system was really important to us. What they evolved to be also, which is really sort of fun, Josh, a fun story, is in 2003, we started seeing the birth and started hearing the inklings of this word, cybersecurity. Then 2007, LifeLock was born in Arizona, and you started having this issue of privacy and data security for people. Mm-hmm. And over time, the issue of cybersecurity got bigger and bigger and bigger, but people were focusing on the software side of it. and not the hardware side. So our shredders, eventually we started marketing them as the world's largest hardware data destruction machines as well, which they really are. And people thought we were sort of bananas. They said, "Oh, you guys are e-waste recyclers, electronic waste recyclers." We said, "Yes, we are, but we also, just like people pay for the service of shredding data on paper with Shred-it, they also pay. They need to pay us to shred the data in old hardware and electronics." And that's what we started marketing. Now, not everyone really believed in that story until 2017. Fortune magazine approached me, a gentleman named Robert Hackett. He was the lead writer on cybersecurity for Fortune magazine. And he went to his editors and said, "Can we do a story on ERI?" And they said, "Yeah, that's a great idea." In fact, they were a little bit shocked that they had missed that angle all those years. And they did a story on us, and it was called Dead But Not Forgotten. And the last line of this story was, it turns out e-waste is not only an environmental hazard, but a cybersecurity one as well. And we were then off to the races. And then people started realizing, yeah, John's right, ERI is right. We need to make sure that all the data in all our servers and all our laptops at our company or our organizations, laptops and all the hard drives, all this stuff goes away once we're done using it. We don't want it getting into the cyber criminals' hands. And so that's become a big part of our business as well. And just to give you a little bit of perspective, Josh, our first month of business, which was really officially in Fresno, California, in April of 2005, we recycled about 10,000 pounds of electronic waste. This past April, we recycled about over 20 million pounds of electronic waste on a national basis. So the business has grown tremendously. We have about 1,000 employees, so it's great for job creation. We keep the environment clean. We destroy people's data and organizations' data, so we make the world a better, cleaner, and safer place. So it's really a good business to go into, but only if you really are committed to doing it the right way.
So I'm assuming some of the right ways is the ethically sorting using AI, but also actually destroying the data.
Yeah, that's the right way. And getting certified on the environmental side, we are E-Stewards and R2 certified. That's the two best environmental certifications. On the data destruction side, we're NAID certified at all our facilities. National Association of Information Destruction. That certification was originally created by Bob Johnson and his colleagues who created NAID, and it was for the paper industry and the paper shredding industry. And eventually, about 5-6 years ago, they also included the hardware data destruction industry. And so we were the first in the world to get all of our facilities NAID certified. So when your listeners are out there looking for a legitimate and responsible and credible e-waste recycler or hardware data destruction company, they should be using only certified companies like ERI. Make sure they have the certifications, not only on their website, but they prove to them their certifications. And then not only do they prove to them, then they go audit the facilities themselves before they send them any of their old electronic waste.
So then I would assume some of them, like you were mentioning, like Best Buy, would be the one where you could just safely put it there and not worry.
Yes, there's great companies like Best Buy. We have many great retailers that we service: Target, Best Buy, Costco, Amazon, Staples, and they're very responsible organizations. They choose only responsible recyclers like ERI and many others. And so you're very safe dropping your old electronics and hardware off at Best Buy or at Staples or other great retailers out there as well.
Wonderful. So then that's amazing with the business and the modeling. It sounded like you said you've been doing this a while. Can you tell me some of the bumps or trials you've gone through getting to this point?
You know, Josh, there's no entrepreneur that doesn't face great hurdles along the way. And people who want to be an entrepreneur, who think they just come up with a great idea and they raise a little money and maybe pick up a partner or two, and then they go work out of someone's garage or basement or attic, and it all happens. It's just not the truth. I've done so many startups in my life, and the story is always the same. It's difficult to pick, first of all, not only the right concept at the right time, but it's very, very difficult also to pick the right partners. And that's actually more important than picking the right concept. There's lots of good ideas that need to be done, Josh. But since at some point or during a lot of the journey, it's going to be a war, it's going to be a battle. You have to be in the foxholes with the right people. And if you don't choose the right people up front, all you're going to be doing is squabbling with those people. And even if you had a great idea, you're going to eventually get rolled over and lose the battle anyway, because you were squabbling with your partners instead of fighting the war with them. So picking the right partners is really 95% of it. Picking the right concept at the right time, maybe the other 5%. And then you go to war, and the war is relentless. The war is unpredictable, and the war is at many times extraordinarily soul crushing, lonely, and you just really know you don't know the outcome. It's really truly the definition of faith. Faith is believing in something without really knowing the outcome. It's like a little bit like heaven. It's a little bit like God or whoever you pray to. Faith is believing there's a heaven, but until we're dead, we don't really know where we're going to end up. Same thing with as an entrepreneur. You believe your business is going to work with your heart and soul, but until it works, it's not working. Until you cross over and really start making predictable and consistent profits, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You're nuts. And all of a sudden, at some point, when the profits become consistent and become large enough, you go from being crazy to genius.
Yes.
But by then, it's a whole different part of the business.
Oh yeah, and that's actually funny because a lot of people talk to me. They're like, "Oh, I want to start my own business," and I'm like, "Same thing as you." I'm like, "Business is war. You don't see the actual casualties, but the casualty is your money, essentially."
It's really so true, Josh. And anyone who thinks you get into it and you become the next Zuckerberg or Bezos or Gates and it's just easy peasy lemon squeezy, it ain't.
No, it's not.
And a lot of the entrepreneurs out there don't rightly like. Some do. Some talk about the battle, but a lot don't, because they feel it's weak. It's a sign of weakness, and it's not. Number one. Number two. Some don't talk about the near-death experiences and the toll that it takes on people physically, emotionally, personally. The toll is massive. But you make your choices in life, and you decide what you really want and what's more important to you. And then you go. This is just a continuum in the many businesses I've started over my lifetime. I'm 59 now. I started as an entrepreneur when I was 10, 11 years old, and it's to me the greatest journey anyone could ever have. But it takes a rare person to really to do this. It's not for everyone.
It's not, and that's what I tell people too. I'm like, are you willing to give up like naps or like parties? Because you're gonna be working 16-hour days for maybe 3-4 years, not get paid a dime, and then maybe on the 5th year, it'll all work out or blow up, and you have to try again.
And it ain't a failure, Josh. There's really no such thing as failures. It's just lessons.
Oh yeah,
and you just got to learn from every. I make mistakes every damn day, and I just keep rolling. I just keep rolling forward. You just don't stop. People who stop or start to overthink things or start to question why that they made that mistake or something happened, you're just going to fail. The inertia will fail. Will be a certain road to failure. The idea is just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Learn and what works, you scale it. What doesn't work, you cut it, and you take your hits. And when you get knocked down, because believe me, you're going to get knocked down, and you're going to get knocked down over and over again, and you just keep getting up and you keep going forward. And by the way, the more successful you get, when you go from being the new kid on the block in an industry. We created this industry, and everyone thought we were the fools in the industry. Now we're the leading brand. So everyone's got a target on our back. And I was the crazy one when we came in. I was an internet guy. I had come out of starting a .com that was massively successful, so no one understood how I came into the recycling world. And I had just been an internet guy. And why am I in the recycling world? So I also, had a, they say, oh, we're not going to listen to that fool. But then now we're the smart guys in the industry. We got a target on our back now. So you go from being a nobody to somebody in an industry, and it creates all sorts of different pressures and challenges and things of that such. And that's okay, because that's what you sign up for. And if you didn't want it that way, then you should just go work for somebody else and just get a job at a nice big company. And there's no shame in that either.
There's not. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, maybe for you, it is just climbing the corporate ladder till the stress is too much and then just stop there.
There's no shame in any of it. But people got to pick their path and realize what they're signing up for.
Yeah. And that was the biggest one I tell people, because like, oh, I want to make the hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, there's also, we do need workers. Like, entrepreneurs are great and they're innovators, but we need workers for the entrepreneurs too.
It's Josh, you're so right. And listen, it takes a team to get there. And, not everyone can be the quarterback or the coach. It takes linemen on both sides, it takes running backs and wide receivers. And you got to sort of just learn. And what comes out over time, you still make mistakes, but what comes over time is some perspective on putting the right fannies in the right seats so your team could actually win. And then once you have a winning team, Josh, one of the other key things that most people don't understand is they get a little carried away with themselves. They get a lot of hubris. If you watch the shows We Crash or any of those other kind of shows that are out there on WeWork or on Uber, unfortunately, sometimes the leaders get they believe in themselves too much, and instead of understanding the team got them there, and then they start losing their team. One of the great things that I pride myself on is keeping the team together. Keep the core team together. If you study sports, and if you enjoy sports and you watch the greatest, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, Phil Jackson, the greatest coaches of all time, understand how to keep their teams intact so they keep winning, so they build dynasties. And the same thing goes in business. Keep your team intact. Give credit to everybody else. Don't think it's all you, because it ain't. And also give credit to luck that it's give credit to luck. If you think you became a big success just from your hard work and your idea and putting together the right team, you had to have the right time in the right place, and luck had to play a large role in it. People think it's all me. Oh man, I did this, I did that. They're just delusional, totally delusional.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've told a lot of people, I'm like, it's kind of like a ratio of like 10% consistency, 10% showing up, which is, I think, consistency. It was something else, but there was like 80% is just luck.
So a lot of it's luck for sure. And so you gotta have enough humility to give luck its due, and that's important.
Absolutely. So I'm just curious for you, what were some of your tactics that you used? Like you were mentioning the coaching, but you have 1,000 people under you. How do you keep unity and communication flowing freely?
It ain't easy. Size is great because size means your brand succeeding. And as your brand succeeds, more people want to join it. But there's a catch-22 to that. Size is also it's also the enemy of communication. The bigger you get, the less communication you get to have with the people that you care about, and more people feel out of touch. They feel less connected to the leadership team. That means they feel like they're just a number, and they feel like they could go at any time because they really don't matter to the organization anymore. So communicating enough with the organization is important. So I put out a weekly newsletter to the entire company with recent wins, both sales wins and operational wins. Also celebrating people's anniversaries, how long they've been there, and calling them out, putting out an inspirational quote, showing some videos or podcasts from that week, and some other things as well. So every week I put out a weekly newsletter. I try. I'm not great at it, and I don't want to say that I do 12 a year. I try on a best case basis to have one town hall a month. This year, maybe I've probably had three. So I'm off, I'm off that. And again, there's no shame in saying you're imperfect because anyone thinks they're perfect or, is headed in the wrong direction. But in a perfect world, we'd like to have one town hall a month where I get to lead and they get to hear my voice directly. So communication is really important. And then also, I tell my sales team and I tell my other partners, we got to get our face out of Facebook and get in someone's face for real. I get on
Yes.
planes. I get on planes every week. No one's closing deals over Snapchat, over Instagram, over text message, even over Zoom. You're not closing deals anymore. You got to close nose to nose, Josh. That's the way this thing is done. I'm going right now on Friday on my third trip to South Korea just this year. Typically, on any given year, I go 4 to 6 times to South Korea. I got my partners there. I got a lot of clients there, and so I travel to Asia. I travel to Europe. I've already been to Ireland this year and in the UK, and I'll be going back there again later this year. You got to just go. You got to go, and that way people want to see you in person, shake your hand, look at you eye to eye, and any deal of value in your life, you're going to close nose to nose.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like during the pandemic, Zoom did work because we couldn't meet anyone. But yeah, a lot of big sales guys I've had on, they even said they're like, Zoom works if you're like getting started or they're like way across the ocean and you don't have the 3 grand to go see them. They're like, for intro, that's great. But they're like, to actually close it, you need to see them.
Yeah. And so that's the way it goes. And to me, when you're picking what you want to do, like I said earlier, picking your partners is very, very important in terms of work ethic, in terms of character, in terms of brains. Those are the three key criteria on picking your partners. Picking the business concept that you want to do as an entrepreneur is a little bit more interesting. You see all the white space in this world and the problems that exist, and then you realize, are there solutions to them? B, are you willing to create a little beta test for a solution? If the answer is yes, then you do it. And does the beta solution work? Okay, if the answer is yes, then you go to the next part of the decision tree. C, then, is this something that's scalable and can be profitable at a scale basis?
Mm-hmm.
And that's C. If the answer is yes, then you go, okay. The last two are really important. Is this something that's personal to me? Because it's got to be personal to you to actually go all in. It's got to be something that, for some reason, shape, or form, means something to you more than just money, more than just having your own business. If it's just about money or having your own business for ego's sake, it's doomed to start with. But if there's something personal that's going to make you get up every morning with a chip on your shoulder and keep pushing forward when there's more weight pushing back, then that's also interesting. And last but not least, am what I about to embark on, from my time spent, does it make the biggest impact that I can make, given the where I am with what I got and who I know at that given time? If the answer is yes, then do it. If the answer is no, maybe find something else. Because at the end of the day, you got to make money to make an impact. You got to make money to pay your own bills. But if you can be doing something that has a higher calling, do that instead. So you got to run through a checklist. And that's the checklist I just gave you in terms of how I come up with concepts or how I decide I'm going to get involved with a business. There's a checklist, and it's pretty clear in my mind how to do this.
That's a very well put checklist. I've heard different variations. That one's probably the most concise, but elegantly presented.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, the interesting part that I wanted to mention that we got over here instead was how do you focus on your team morale like a coach does?
That's a great question. Morale's a big deal. Morale's a bigger deal post pandemic, really.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be, I was sharing this with another partner of mine, another business. I wrote him an email in the middle of the night last night about what it takes. And he's the CEO of another company we have called Let's Engage. And I
Okay.
said, back when I was his age, which was about 24, 25 years old, it was all about intelligence and work ethic. And about 15 years later, it evolved to not only intelligence and work ethic, but it also evolved to emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And not only work hard, but work smart. So it evolved from work hard to work smart, but also you have to have emotional intelligence, be able to understand and be empathetic towards other people and understand where they're coming from. Listen, everybody has stuff they're going through. Everybody
Yes.
has stuff. You gotta be attuned to that. You just can't go through life thinking, oh wow, what a great day. The birds are chirping and the sun is shining and it's all good. Other people face problems. Some problems big, some problems small. But by the way, they deal with them differently. So they might be more equipped to deal with them better than most, and they might be less equipped. So you got to be empathetic to everyone that's in your company and that you're working with your colleagues to make sure they're okay. And how can you help them be more okay? And then things evolved even further to just recent times. So now is it not only part about just strict intelligence, which it still is, and emotional intelligence, which it is, and not only work hard and work smart, but now you have a new set of skills that we need called cultural intelligence. And cultural intelligence means you you have the ability and the wherewithal and the awareness and emotional IQ to work with people from diverse backgrounds. And I'm talking about diverse ethnic backgrounds, age backgrounds, geographic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, cultural backgrounds in terms of all different parts of the world. It's more of a melting pot than ever before. Handicaps. There's 62 or 61 million people that are handicapped in America. When's the last time you walked into a company and you saw a handicapped person up front or somewhere in an area that you could see them, whether they're blind or in a wheelchair or something else? Being culturally aware and intelligent towards all people from all backgrounds and being able to work within that ecosystem and that whole idea that we got to be more empathetic to everyone and open ourselves up to understand that even if we have political differences or cultural differences, that everyone has something to offer, that better decisions are made when you consider all approaches before you make a final decision. And it really makes for better management to be open to a vast array of emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, and then strict intelligence as well. Because if you just had a company of just smart people, that company's going nowhere. They'll get their butts rolled every day of the week if they don't have any emotional intelligence or cultural intelligence as well.
Oh, 100%. You like perfectly said what I was thinking about is like when I was in did security a long time ago. Long story short, essentially this really successful district manager got his footing to where he was because of this warehouse I was working at. So me and him were chatting. I didn't realize how big of a person he was. Kind of like you. I'm just like, this is fun. We're chatting. And this one guy, it's funny, he had like a tattoo on his neck, like a Hell's Gate with fire and demon spawn coming out of it. And he pretty much said, like, going in, he's like, oh man, I wish I got in a car crash so I didn't have to come here for 6 months instead of working one day here. And that's where the district manager comes up. He's like, hey, you're an observant guy. What's wrong? This is like my baby, my warehouse that got me started. I said, well, that guy with that tattoo on his neck wished paying for 6 months instead of one day here. So my morale doesn't exist here.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
So I just gave him simple tips. I'm like, dude, we're humans. Even if we're not the most competitive things, like I said, sucks, a W-2 worker, $100 is game changing kind of thing. Can you afford to put like $100 aside for like a contest? Whoever does the most packages move safely is ranked higher kind of thing. Those who aren't obviously are lower. He's like, oh yeah. I said, okay, $500. Like you have your ranking and you distribute however you want. I'm like, can you afford that? He's like, oh yeah, that's like 2 steak dinners. I'm like, I don't know where the hell you go for 2 steak dinners at $250 a shop, but I want to try that place. And then pretty much, yeah, like a month and a half later, they're 3Xing. He went from like 200K a day to like 1.5 million a day,
What?
just from gamification.
Wow.
And that's
It's
what I told,
powerful. It's
right?
powerful, Josh. It's powerful.
And it was just one of those afterwards. He just wrote me a check and he's like, "So how much do I owe you?" I'm like, "You owe me?" And I was like, "Oh, jokingly, like 10 grand." He's like, "That's it? All right, here you go." No, like, should ask for way more.
That's funny. That's funny. I love it.
But yeah, that's been my, like, ever since I got that check, I'm like, this makes the most sense. Like, this is what I need to show other people who are not aware of it. Like, clearly you know it, so I wouldn't have to teach you, kind of thing.
Right, right, right. I love it. This is great. That's awesome. I like
Right.
that story, Josh. That's well done.
Thank you. And it was just, yeah, that was the pivoting moment. And then I bumbled around. Dark story. We'll skip that part. But essentially now I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to get the right customer, right pitch, this and that. And then it might get to the point where, like you, it's like, I need to hire so many more people because I can't do this anymore.
Right. It's true. It's true.
So I'm just curious, tailing it back to the e-waste part. I was going over the questions the one guy sent me.
Yeah.
Is it predominantly the cell phone e-waste or the
Oh no, it's everything now. I mean,
okay,
I never imagined, Josh, that Tesla would be a client, and that data server centers would be server farms would be clients. We've been doing this now almost 20 years, so things have evolved so much in that wearables, and rings. This Aura ring is a piece of e-waste when it comes to its end of life. This Garmin watch is a piece of e-waste when it comes to its end of life. So it's a fascinating business. It's always evolving. It's never boring, and so it's cell phones plus everything else that you can imagine because we don't want to fill up the landfills with old electronics. So I didn't get to say at the top of the show, but there's a real reason environmentally to keep electronic waste out of landfills, out of rivers, lakes, or being shipped to India, China, or Africa. They have a lot of arsenic, beryllium, lead, cadmium, mercury, and other potentially hazardous materials in them. So if they're to be sent to a landfill, and most landfill liners leak, and then they get watered upon and rained upon, then those materials, potentially hazardous materials, then leach into the environment, into the ecosystem, and they make its way back into plants and animals and into human beings eventually. And then you have really, really catastrophic results. So the idea of keeping electronics out of landfills, but then also protecting the data that's in them is really critical. And I didn't say it earlier, but I want to make sure that you understand this also, that after Fortune Magazine wrote that book about in 2021, my partners and I, Aaron Blum, Kevin Dillon, Brendan Egan, and Tammy Shegerian, my wife, we wrote a book called The Insecurity of Everything.
mm-hmm.
And it's all about this hardware data destruction stuff and data hacking that I shared with you earlier, and the problem of cybercrime. And it became an Amazon bestseller. And what I want to do for all your listeners and anyone who writes to you and says, "Hey, Josh, I'd like a free copy of The Insecurity of Everything. I heard your show with John Shegerian. I'd like a free copy of the book." You forward me their name and address, and we will mail them a free copy. We wrote the book just as an education tool. We didn't write it to be Shakespearean. We didn't write it to set the world on fire and make a fortune. We did it as an education tool to help keep people and the organizations and corporations they work with safer. And so, yeah, so far it's gone real well in the last 18 months, and we want to continue doing well with it.
That's awesome. Can we go into some of the stuff in the book that you go over?
Sure.
Anything I'm gonna say I haven't read it yet. I'll probably hit you up later. So I'll be like,
okay. Well, I'll give you a couple of things. First of all, when people think, wow, they hear about all these cyber solutions. Most of the cyber solutions you hear about are on the software side. Right. There's a lot of them, and they're great. A lot of them are publicly traded now. Some of them are privately held. But unless you protect the hardware and the data that's in the hardware, it's like locking your front door with 3 locks and a bolt, but leaving your garage door and your back door wide open if you're misappropriating, even out of benign neglect, your old hardware. So make sure that when you choose someone who is going to be handling your old electronics, and this goes for whether you're in the United States or if you're listening to Josh's podcast anywhere else in the world, pick a responsible recycler that's NAID certified, because this is a problem that's a worldwide problem. From Mumbai to Shanghai to Dubai, this problem exists everywhere. That's number one. Number two, during the pandemic, I took a cybersecurity certification course both at Harvard and MIT. They were a fascinating way to spend a good part of the pandemic. And here's what I learned. In 2015, the cyber criminals successfully stole around the world $3 trillion. When you grow up and your parents are telling you crime doesn't pay, that's not only true. That's not always true. In the cybercrime world, it is true. It really is true.
They can move fast and get in and out and get rid of their footsteps before you even notice it.
Right. And just a mere 6 years later, in 2021, cyber criminals made away with $6 trillion. $6 trillion.
Yeah.
So it's a growing problem, and people have to be really aware of it. Everything that you have that just think about this, Josh. Imagine if you flew to a different city today and rented a car, and the car was a more modern car built usually within the last 2 to 3 years, and you're fumbling around wanting to listen to some music. Also, you want to get to where you want to put on the in the MapQuest system or Neverlost system. You want to put in your address to where you have to go to as well. And you were pressing all different buttons, and by accident you pressed a couple of the opt-in buttons. Well, most people don't realize that when you're in a rent-a-car, and even your own car nowadays, you at some point or another you're going to download the contacts and the information that's on either the tablet you've taken into that car or your cell phone. So now what happens? Now you return that car to the rent-a-car agency, and now your information, contacts, goodwill, the organization you work with or work for, the corporation you either work with or work for, your family's finances, your own finances are all now in the hard drive of that car. And what happens to that car when it ends up, if it ever ends up in the wrong people's hands? It could be catastrophic. Sometimes it is. Because, by the way, there's a lot of people who aren't the wrong people that aren't going to do anything bad with your technology. But when and if it ends up in the wrong people's hands, catastrophe can and will strike. Same goes in industry. So many people say, John, can you come and give me a quote on cleaning up my server farm? And I'll give them a quote, and and then I won't hear from them for 3 or 4 months, and I'll eventually get back to, hey, what happened there? Oh, we chose another vendor. So why is that? Oh, Charlie's scrap service said they come pick up all the servers, 1,000 servers at my server farm for free. And here's the other little old adage we go by around here, Josh. There's no such thing as responsible free recycling. What they're doing with those servers is they're picking them up, bringing them back to their warehouse, stacking them into a container and selling them offshore. Now, historically, 20 years ago, the people who was buying those servers or any electronics off our shores, and they're still doing this. This still goes on in America today and other countries. So I'm not just going to single out the United States. Is those people were in emerging economies, basically mining the gold, the silver, the copper, and other precious metals out of these servers. Now, on a percentage basis, and it's hard to tell how much, 15 to 30% of the time, instead of just mining the precious metals, the people who are buying those containers and those servers and other electronics are looking for our corporate secrets. And in many instances, if the old electronics are coming out of our government, U.S. government, they're looking for our homeland security secrets so they can figure out where we have weaknesses and soft points. And this is an ongoing thing told to me by both Homeland Security and the FBI. So this is a serious matter, and we all have to be better at protecting our electronics when they come to their natural end of life.
Oh, yeah. So I'm just curious, because you've been in the industry so long. Have you seen incidences where terrible things have happened because it's gotten in the wrong hands?
A lot. Some of
Okay.
the ones that are publicized, I'll give one that was publicized. Data Service Center in Morgan Stanley had their, I think it was Morgan Stanley. I might have the bank wrong, but a large bank out of the UK made the wrong choice of vendor. They made the bad choice of vendor. The, the servers ended up in the wrong place, and then they were fined. They were fined because of GDPR and other laws that exist now. So this not only comes with a loss of goodwill and a loss of trust in people's brands, but if you pick the wrong vendor, there's also now fines. Governments can fine you for misappropriating people's data. So it's a serious, serious issue, and the data breach issue, is not going away.
Yeah. And I would assume, especially in like the next 5 to 10 years, everyone's going to definitely notice that and be even more hawkish towards it, getting
What,
that.
what happened with the brand like Morgan Stanley was not only did they lose, their customers lose faith in them, they got fined, but then they also had class action suits that were filed against them by their customers. So it became a mess. It became a mess. So again, nobody's perfect. No organization's perfect, but every organization just has to take better care of looking for companies that are both e-stewards and R2 on the environmental side, and on the information data destruction side, they have to be NAID certified, National Association of Information Destruction.
NAIV. Okay. I was thinking it was
NAID.
ID. Okay. I thought it was like NAV. I'm like, that's very interesting, but okay.
No, National Association of Information Destruction.
Okay. I will definitely be looking for that now too.
Right.
Is there anything in particular that I might have missed that you want to go over?
No, you did a great job. I mean, it's a great industry when done right. When you recycle electronics the right way, it's truly a tremendous circular economy industry because it's zero waste and zero landfill and zero emissions. So we don't create any emissions underneath our roofs. All the commodities go back for beneficial reuse, and nothing goes to a landfill. A small percentage does, but if you're under 10%, that's called zero waste. So instead of 20 million or 20 million plus pounds going to a landfill, we've created a business where all those commodities get shredded and destroyed responsibly, and then all those commodities go for beneficial reuse. So not only do the people win, the planet wins, and you get to make the world a better place, and you get to create 1,000 new jobs. So to me, that's a good way to go to bed every night.
That is. It really is. Absolute honor and a pleasure to chat with you, John.
Same here. Thanks so much for having me, Josh, and continued success with your podcast.
Thank you. Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're an awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome, and see you next time.